Ethan could still feel the echo of the strange message in his mind as he stared at the glowing emblem on the holographic summons. It was not every day that a human received a direct invitation from the alien Empress Kalara herself. The hologram shimmered in the dim cabin of his small starship, casting soft reflections on the polished metal walls. He touched it again, almost hoping it was a mistake or perhaps a prank. But no, it bore the official seal of the Interstellar Empire, a sign that demanded obedience. He took a deep breath, letting the gravity of the moment sink in. 1,000 thoughts raced through his head. Why had the Empress summoned him? Was it about his secret relationship with Lyra, her daughter? Or was it something else entirely? He had been careful, discreet, and cautious. But the aliens were sharper than humans usually imagined. Kalara was known for her intellect, cunning, and an unyielding will. Humans often underestimated her, and many paid for that mistake. Despite the fear, excitement stirred within him. Ethan was not just any human. He had trained for years to explore alien worlds, to navigate their cultures and technologies. His curiosity, combined with his ability to think quickly and adapt, had kept him alive in situations far more dangerous than this. Yet even he could not fully predict what awaited him at the palace. The journey to the Empress's world was both breathtaking and disorienting. The planet, named Zithera, glowed like a jewel in the blackness of space, its atmosphere shimmering in iridescent colors. Floating palaces hovered above its surface, supported by an advanced form of anti-gravity technology that humans had only dreamed of. Streams of light traveled between them like celestial rivers, and ships of all shapes and sizes moved gracefully, obeying no conventional rules of physics. The sight made Ethan feel both small and alive in ways he had never known. As his ship approached the main palace, the air shimmered with a strange energy field, almost as if the planet itself was aware of his arrival. The landing platform was enormous, polished to a mirror finish, and lined with beings of various species, ambassadors, attendants, and guards. All eyes turned to him as he disembarked, and for a moment Ethan felt the weight of every judgment. He reminded himself to stay calm. Confidence, even feigned, was essential when dealing with beings like the Empress. The palace interior was unlike anything Ethan had ever seen. Towering halls stretched endlessly, walls made of translucent crystal that revealed the sky outside in dazzling patterns. Gravity shifted subtly, allowing him to float slightly above the floor as he walked. Alien attendants glided past him silently, their forms elegant and alien, with eyes that seemed to look through him rather than at him. He sensed the layers of observation, the constant analysis of his every move. Finally, he was led into a large chamber at the heart of the palace. The room was circular, with a ceiling so high that it disappeared into a haze of light. In the center, a figure sat on a throne that seemed to float above the floor, radiating authority and presence. The Empress Kalara's skin shimmered in patterns that changed with her movements, reflecting her mood and intent. Her eyes, deep and perceptive, fixed on Ethan with an intensity that made his heart skip a beat. "Ethan," she said, her voice smooth but firm, echoing slightly in the vast chamber. "You have traveled far to reach me. Tell me, why should I not consider your presence here a transgression?" "Your Majesty," he began, keeping his tone steady, "I come as an explorer and a representative of humanity. My intention is not to transgress, but to learn, to understand, and to offer my services in ways that may benefit your empire. Humans are clever, yes, but cleverness alone does not earn trust. Loyalty, wisdom, and respect for our laws are equally important. You carry a secret with you, do you not?" But Kalara's intellect was legendary. He should have expected nothing less. He nodded slightly, acknowledging the truth without giving too much away. "I understand, Your Majesty," he said. "My feelings for Princess Lyra are genuine, but they do not compromise my loyalty or my ability to act responsibly. I would never allow my personal life to interfere with my duties or the well-being of your empire. That is a quality I appreciate. Your success or failure may determine more than your own fate." As he studied the sphere, his mind worked rapidly, recalling everything he knew about alien mathematics, diplomacy, and human problem-solving. He realized that brute force or conventional logic would not suffice. He needed creativity, empathy, and the ability to think in ways the aliens might not expect. Hours passed in tense concentration. The Empress watched silently, observing his decisions, noting his patience, his reasoning, and the care with which he handled mistakes. Finally, the sphere's light shifted, glowing brighter, signaling the end of the test. Ethan held his breath as Kelara spoke. "Impressive," she said simply. "You approach challenges as a human yet with respect for alien methods. That is unexpected. Perhaps there is merit in your species after all." Her eyes met Ethan's, a silent exchange of support and encouragement passing between them. He realized how much he had missed the simple comfort of her presence amidst the tension and alien scrutiny. "Mother," Lyra said softly, her voice steady but carrying an edge of warning, "I trust you will consider his intentions carefully. Both of you understand that our world does not tolerate recklessness, even in matters of the heart. Every choice from this point on could influence not only his fate but the course of human-alien relations." When the session ended, Ethan and Lyra were escorted to a smaller room within the palace, a place of relative privacy. Lyra took his hand, her touch grounding him after the tense hours. "You did well," she whispered. "Mother is testing you, yes, but she respects intelligence and courage. That's why she summoned you personally. Few humans receive such recognition. Humans have a way of surprising others, especially when they combine heart and mind. Remember that." He knew that surviving in the palace required more than cleverness. It required insight, empathy, and courage, qualities humans possessed in ways even the most advanced aliens could not always predict. And so, as Zithra glowed softly under its twin moons, Ethan prepared himself for the days to come. Every moment, every choice, every word could tip the balance in a game far larger than he had ever imagined. He had been summoned by the Empress, and he would face her tests. But he also carried something rare: the ingenuity, adaptability, and heart of a human, a force that even an alien empire could not easily ignore. Ethan closed his eyes, determined. No matter what lay ahead, he would meet it not only with intelligence but with courage. Humanity, he realized, had a way of shining in the darkness, even in the heart of an alien palace. And somewhere deep in the palace, the Empress's eyes seemed to linger on him still, calculating, observing, and perhaps, just perhaps, intrigued. The next morning, Ethan awoke to the soft hum of the palace, a quiet energy that seemed to flow through the walls and floors themselves. He sat up, brushing his hair back and taking a deep breath. Today, he knew the real challenge would begin. The Empress had summoned him yesterday, tested him with that strange crystal sphere, and seemed intrigued by his abilities. But intrigue was only the beginning. Alien curiosity often masked dangers humans could hardly predict. Lyra was already waiting outside his quarters, her presence both reassuring and exhilarating. She wore a simple, flowing robe that shimmered with a subtle luminescence, a sign of her royal status. Her eyes sparkled as she saw him rise. "You slept well?" she asked, a teasing tone in her voice, though the underlying tension was clear. "Better than I expected," Ethan replied. "But I have a feeling today will be far less peaceful." "I only hope she is willing to listen, not just judge." Eventually, they reached a large chamber, far more formal than yesterday's meeting. Empress Kelara sat at the center, her posture regal and unwavering. Her gaze immediately fell on Ethan, sharp and calculating. There was no greeting this time, only a test in her silence. "You have passed the first demonstration of skill," she said after a moment, her voice calm but full of authority. "But true judgment requires more than cleverness. It requires understanding of context, consequences, and, above all, the capacity to act under scrutiny. Tell me," she began, "why, as a human, do you value life and loyalty? Your species is young in comparison to the centuries of my empire. Why should I trust you to respect our laws, even in matters of the heart? We survive through collaboration, through understanding, and through our ability to learn from mistakes. Our experience may be brief, but it is intense. We know what it means to care for each other, to take risks for those we love, and to find solutions where none seem possible. That is why you can trust me. I act with intention, not impulse." "Mother," she said, her voice calm, "he has shown intelligence and courage already. Perhaps you should allow him to demonstrate further through action. Ethan, you will be given tasks that require judgment, intuition, and the application of knowledge. Succeed, and you may gain my trust. Fail, and the consequences will be yours alone." A holographic display appeared in the center of the room, showing a series of scenarios involving the palace's defense systems. A malfunctioning drone fleet had begun circling a critical sector, and an alien delegation from a distant star system was en route for a diplomatic summit. The instructions were clear: devise a strategy that would protect the delegation, maintain security, and minimize risk to the palace and its inhabitants. Ethan studied the display carefully. Humans often excelled at creative problem-solving, and he intended to show exactly that. He analyzed patterns, predicted potential failures, and considered not only the technological solutions, but also the behavioral tendencies of the alien diplomats and palace security. "Your approach will be judged for creativity, efficiency, and judgment," Kilara said, her tone even but unmistakably challenging. Ethan's mind raced. He formulated a plan that combined precise timing, rerouting drones into harmless zones, and subtle signals to palace guards to anticipate unexpected movements. He even incorporated a way to communicate with the alien delegation discreetly, ensuring they would feel safe without realizing the full danger they narrowly avoided. He presented his solution step by step, explaining his reasoning, anticipating objections, and offering contingency measures. Kilara listened in silence, her piercing gaze following each motion, each word. When he finished, she leaned forward slightly, her attention fully on him. "Impressive," she said. "Few beings, alien or human, could formulate such a comprehensive plan so quickly. You think beyond rules and protocols. You understand context and consequence. That is a quality I value." Walls transformed into translucent panels showing images of Lyra, moments of private conversation, and encounters Ethan had shared with her in secret. It was a subtle, unspoken reminder. She knew everything. "You care for Lyra," Kilara stated. "Your actions must reflect that, yet you must also respect boundaries and our laws. Tell me, Ethan, what would you do if your affection for her conflicted with the needs of the Empire?" Humans have a way of reconciling competing demands with creativity, and I would use that skill. Ethan felt a surge of warmth and determination. They were partners in this, not only lovers, but collaborators in navigating an alien world that would judge them harshly if they faltered. Kilara stood and moved to a large, circular window overlooking the palace grounds. The floating gardens below shimmered in the alien sunlight, fountains of liquid crystal sending sparkling streams into the sky. She turned to Ethan and Lyra. "You will spend time observing the workings of this empire, learning our methods and our history. Only by understanding can you demonstrate loyalty, intelligence, and adaptability. Consider this a preparation for challenges to come." They observed diplomats, scientists, and strategists, noting every subtle cue, every method of communication. Ethan marveled at the efficiency and beauty of alien systems, but also at the way the Empress's presence subtly influenced behavior. Every individual acted as if aware they were being measured, not just in skill but in character. Ethan realized the challenge was not only in completing tasks, but in understanding people, aliens and humans alike, and predicting their responses. It was a lesson in empathy, observation, and human ingenuity. As night fell, the pair returned to their quarters, exhaustion weighing on them but also a sense of accomplishment. Ethan had survived the Empress's scrutiny today, demonstrated intelligence and judgment, and navigated the tension of his forbidden relationship. He had gained a small measure of respect from Kilara, though he knew it was only temporary and conditional. Lyra leaned against him, whispering, "Mother is difficult, but she sees your value. That is not easily earned. And I will not waste it. Humans have a way of standing out, even here, even against beings far older and wiser than we are. I will prove that again and again if I must." He was not just a human in an alien world. He was a human capable of making a difference, of navigating complexity, of standing out through courage, intelligence, and morality. The days ahead promised challenges, scrutiny, and tests of loyalty and judgment. Yet for the first time, Ethan felt a sense of certainty. No matter the obstacles, humans had something unique to offer: creativity, adaptability, and a courage that often defied expectation. And perhaps, just perhaps, that was enough to gain the respect of an empress and the heart of her daughter. As the twin moons of Zithra rose in the night sky, casting a soft glow across the palace, Ethan closed his eyes, ready to face whatever the Empress had in store next. For he had already begun to understand that survival in this place required more than skill. It required humanity itself. The morning air in the palace was crisp and charged with energy, as if Zithro itself was aware of the trials Ethan would face. He awoke before sunrise, alert despite the exhaustion of the previous day. Lyra was already awake, standing by the wide window that overlooked the floating gardens. The first rays of alien sunlight spilled across her face, and Ethan felt a warmth rise in his chest. Her presence was both comfort and motivation, reminding him why he had come this far. "You're awake early," she said softly, turning to him with a small, encouraging smile. "I couldn't sleep," Ethan admitted. "There's too much at stake today. Whatever the Empress has planned, I need to be ready." The Empress's tests were designed to reveal more than skill. They measured judgment, intuition, and the ability to act under pressure. Humans had a natural flexibility, a combination of curiosity and determination that often gave them an edge. Ethan had to rely on all of it. When they arrived at the central chamber, the Empress was already waiting. Her presence was commanding, even without words. Kalara's eyes, sharp and observant, scanned Ethan from head to toe, as if weighing his very essence. The crystal sphere from the previous day floated nearby, its surface reflecting the pale light of the chamber. "You have demonstrated intelligence," Kalara said, her tone calm but edged with authority. "You have shown careful judgment, but intelligence alone does not earn respect or trust. Today, you will face a challenge that requires creativity, courage, and moral reasoning. Your success or failure will reveal your true nature." Yet that was where humans often excelled. Kalara gestured toward a doorway that opened into a vast, cavernous space. Ethan stepped forward, feeling the air shift as he entered. The room was enormous, lined with holographic displays and floating platforms. In the center, a device resembling a complex alien puzzle awaited him. Its surfaces glowed with shifting symbols, and its structure rotated slowly, responding to his movements. "This is the trial of insight," Kalara explained. "You must navigate this labyrinth, solve the puzzle, and retrieve the core crystal without triggering the security measures. Many beings, alien and human alike, have failed. Few have succeeded." It was intricate and clearly dangerous. One wrong move could set off alarms, defensive drones, or worse. He studied its patterns, noting the symmetry, the movement of the symbols, and the subtle feedback it provided. It was a test not only of intelligence, but of observation and intuition. Lyra followed close behind, offering guidance when necessary, but allowing Ethan to lead. "Trust your instincts," she whispered. "Remember what we've learned from observing the palace. Think like they think, but act like a human." Slowly, patterns emerged, sequences that could be followed without triggering danger. Hours passed as Ethan worked, navigating the labyrinthine puzzle with careful precision. The chamber seemed to stretch endlessly, challenging his endurance as much as his intellect. He paused only to breathe, to recalibrate his approach, and to consider alternative solutions. Human persistence, he realized, was just as important as human intelligence. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, he reached the core crystal. It floated within a transparent sphere, glowing with an inner light that seemed almost alive. Ethan extended his hand, calculating the safest way to retrieve it. As he did, a series of alarms suddenly blared, and defensive drones materialized from hidden compartments in the walls. Ethan froze for a moment, assessing the situation. The drones moved quickly, but not unpredictably. He had anticipated this possibility. Using his understanding of the puzzle's mechanics, he activated a subtle sequence that redirected the drones harmlessly into containment zones. The device's energy responded, and the core crystal floated gently into his hands. He exhaled, feeling a mixture of relief and exhilaration. The Empress had designed the trial to test every aspect of his mind and character, and he had succeeded. But the test was more than a demonstration of skill. It was a statement about humanity itself. Humans could adapt, innovate, and persevere where others might fail. Kalara's voice echoed through the chamber. "Remarkable," she said. "Few beings would have approached this challenge with such balance of caution and creativity. You demonstrate not only intelligence, but judgment and courage. You act with both mind and heart." "You did it," she said softly. "I knew you could. Mother will see your value now, your intelligence, your courage, your humanity." Humans have ingenuity, yes, but understanding others, knowing how to navigate their world, is just as important. Courage, loyalty, and the ability to act under pressure are equally important. Today, you have proven that humans possess qualities rare even among advanced species. He had not only survived the trial, but had elevated the reputation of his species in ways he could scarcely have imagined. Yet the moment of triumph was tempered by awareness. Kalara's tests were never simple. The palace, with its floating gardens, translucent walls, and advanced technology, was more than a backdrop. It was a living entity, observing and analyzing every action. Ethan understood that he must remain vigilant, adaptable, and thoughtful. Complacency could lead to failure, and failure in this environment had consequences beyond personal loss. As the trial concluded, Kelara gestured for Ethan and Lyra to follow her. They walked through corridors illuminated by alien bioluminescence, the air charged with the subtle hum of energy flowing through the palace. The Empress spoke not only of the trial but of lessons embedded within it. "Your species," she said, "possesses potential that is often underestimated. Humans combine intellect, creativity, and morality in ways unusual even among highly advanced beings. This combination allows you to adapt, to survive, and to influence outcomes that might seem impossible to others. They could challenge assumptions, solve problems in unexpected ways, and stand firm where others might falter." Lyra squeezed his hand, a silent reminder of their shared purpose. "You are making a place for humans here," she said softly. "One step at a time, and with each success, Mother sees it more clearly." The palace was a world of challenges, scrutiny, and subtle tests, but it was also a place where human ingenuity could shine. Every decision, every action, every demonstration of courage and intelligence contributed to a larger narrative. Humans were capable, valuable, and worthy of respect, even in the heart of an alien empire. As they returned to their quarters, Ethan reflected on the day's events. The trial had tested him in ways both expected and unexpected, pushing him to think, act, and adapt under pressure. It had confirmed something he had always believed. Humans, with their unique combination of creativity, courage, and empathy, could make a difference anywhere, even among beings far older, wiser, and more powerful. Lyra watched him thoughtfully as they entered the room. "You've passed another stage," she said. "But remember, Mother will continue to test you. Each challenge will demand more than the last." Ethan sat by the window, gazing at the alien city below, feeling a deep sense of purpose. He was no longer just a visitor or a secret lover of a princess. He was a participant in something greater, a human making a mark in a world that had long assumed superiority over his kind. And somewhere within the palace, the Empress watched still, her eyes thoughtful and discerning. She had seen his courage, his ingenuity, and his moral reasoning. She had begun to recognize not just his potential, but the potential of the human species. Ethan closed his eyes, feeling a mix of anticipation and determination. More trials awaited, more challenges to prove worth and ingenuity, but he had already learned something vital. Humanity had a power all its own, a combination of mind, heart, and courage that even an alien empire could not ignore. As Zithra's twin moons rose high in the night sky, Ethan resolved to face whatever came next. The trials would test him, push him, and challenge every skill he possessed, but he was ready. Humans, he realized, had a way of standing out in even the most extraordinary circumstances. And in this palace, under the watchful gaze of the Empress, he would continue to prove it. The following morning, Ethan awoke to a quiet hum running through the palace walls. It was not just the palace itself, alive with its subtle energy, but the awareness that today might test him in ways beyond puzzles and physical challenges. Yesterday's trial had examined his courage and intelligence, but today he sensed the Empress would test his judgment, his diplomacy, and his loyalty in ways far more personal. Lyra was waiting for him by the wide window that overlooked the palace gardens, her expression calm but tinged with concern. "Mother has requested your presence in the council hall," she said softly. "I think this time she will speak directly about us." He had long anticipated this moment, yet even now, standing on the threshold of confrontation, he felt a rush of anxiety. "I am ready," he said, trying to sound more confident than he felt. "Whatever comes, I will answer carefully." The palace was alive with observation, every movement analyzed. He reminded himself to be aware of his expressions, his tone, and his gestures. One wrong step could cause mistrust, and trust was already fragile in this foreign empire. When they reached the council hall, the doors opened to reveal a large, circular chamber bathed in soft light. Empress Kelara stood at the center, her form commanding yet graceful. The crystal sphere from previous trials hovered silently nearby, reflecting the shifting colors of the palace walls. She regarded Ethan with a gaze that weighed every detail, every intention. "You have succeeded in the trial of insight," she said, her voice calm but precise. "You have demonstrated intelligence, creativity, and courage. Today, I seek to understand not just your abilities, but your character, your intentions, and the strength of your loyalty. I will answer as truthfully and thoughtfully as I can. But I believe he is worthy of trust." He could not allow emotion to cloud judgment, yet honesty was crucial. "Your Majesty," he began carefully, I would seek a solution that protects both my personal commitments and the greater good. I would not act recklessly, but I would not abandon either responsibility. Humans are often faced with competing demands, and our strength lies in finding creative solutions that respect multiple needs at once. That is promising. Failure to resolve the dispute could escalate into violence, affecting the stability of multiple star systems. This is your task, Kilara said. Use your skills, judgment, and diplomacy to find a solution that preserves peace, ensures fairness, and maintains loyalty to the Empire. You may not have direct authority, but your actions and reasoning will be observed closely. He recalled what he had learned from observing the palace staff, diplomats, and Lyra herself. Subtle persuasion, timing, and understanding of motives often succeeded where force failed. He began to formulate a strategy, proposing initial contacts, trust-building measures, and a sequence of negotiations that would allow each faction to feel their concerns were respected. He incorporated contingencies, anticipating objections and preparing compromises that aligned with both their needs and the overarching rules of the Empire. The Empress observed silently, her gaze sharp. Ethan realized this was not merely a test of intelligence. It was a test of patience, perception, and moral reasoning. How well he understood motives, predicted responses, and respected both factions. Concerns would reveal whether humanity's combination of empathy, ingenuity, and diplomacy could succeed where alien logic alone might fail. Hours passed as Ethan adjusted his proposals, refining language, anticipating reactions, and balancing competing interests. Lyra stood nearby, offering guidance and subtle suggestions, but never interfering. Her presence reminded him that trust, understanding, and collaboration were as important as cleverness. Finally, he presented his plan. He outlined the sequence of diplomatic engagements, proposed compromises, and contingency measures, explaining his reasoning and the potential outcomes for each faction. The Empress listened in silence, her expression unreadable, but Ethan could feel the subtle shifts in her attention, the nuanced flickers of interest and approval. When he finished, Kilara stepped forward, her eyes locked on his. "You have demonstrated creativity, judgment, and diplomacy," she said. "You have acted thoughtfully, respecting the needs of multiple parties while maintaining loyalty to your principles. Few beings could achieve such balance. And yet there remains a matter of the heart. You care for Lyra. Your loyalty, your ingenuity, and your courage must now be applied to navigating that truth. Can you protect her, respect the laws of this empire, and maintain your integrity?" "That is my commitment." "He has already proven much," she said softly, "but I know he will rise to whatever challenge comes next." Humans, he realized, had a rare ability to adapt, to surprise, and to earn trust in ways the Empress had not anticipated. Later, they were escorted to the floating gardens, a serene space filled with alien flora and shimmering pools of liquid crystal. The gardens were more than decoration. They were a place of reflection, observation, and subtle evaluation. As they walked along the winding paths, Ethan thought about the challenges he had faced and those yet to come. "Mother watches everything," Lyra said, breaking the silence. "Not just your actions, but your intentions. She tests not because she doubts you, but because she must ensure that you can endure what comes next. Every trial is an opportunity to show not only what I can do, but what humans can offer. Ingenuity, courage, empathy, we may be young, but we are capable. Humans are unpredictable, yes, but also remarkable." Ethan began to see a pattern in the Empress's methods. Tests were not merely about performance, but about understanding oneself, the environment, and others. As the twin moons of Zithra rose in the sky, casting soft, silver light across the floating gardens, Ethan reflected on the day. The trial had been less about puzzles or combat and more about diplomacy, judgment, and the balance of personal desire with duty. He had demonstrated his value, not only as a capable human, but as someone worthy of trust and respect. Yet he knew the tests were not over. The Empress's scrutiny was continuous, her evaluations subtle and precise. Every conversation, every decision, every interaction would be weighed. Failure was not just possible, it could be catastrophic. Ethan turned to Lyra, her presence steady and comforting. "We will face whatever comes next together," he said. "Humans have a way of standing out even in places where we are underestimated. That will be our strength." "Yes," she whispered, "and we will succeed not just for us, but for the possibilities humans can bring to this empire." Humans, he realized, possessed a rare combination of intellect, courage, and empathy that could not be ignored, even by the most advanced alien minds. Somewhere deep within the palace, the Empress's eyes lingered on them, calculating and observant. She had witnessed intelligence, ingenuity, and courage, but she had also begun to see the strength of humanity itself. And Ethan knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges, new tests, and new opportunities to prove that humans could not only survive but excel in this extraordinary world. The palace of Empress Kelera was quieter than usual that morning, but the stillness carried a sense of anticipation. Ethan could feel it in every step as he walked through the wide corridors, Lyra at his side. The trials, the tests, the scrutiny, they had all led to this moment. Today, he would face a challenge unlike any before, one that would prove not only his courage and ingenuity but the worth of humanity itself. He entered the central hall where the Empress awaited. The chamber, vast and luminous, seemed almost to vibrate with energy. The floating crystal sphere from previous trials hovered silently, casting soft reflections across the walls. Kelera's eyes, sharp and perceptive, focused on him as if weighing every thought and intention. "You have proven yourself capable," she said, her voice calm but commanding. "Your intelligence, judgment, and courage have impressed me. You have also demonstrated understanding, empathy, and loyalty, qualities rare even among my species. But the ultimate test remains. A rogue faction opposed to my rule has attempted to seize control of vital systems. Their technology rivals our own, and their strategy is unpredictable. You will assist in resolving this threat. Your role is to think creatively, to act decisively, and to use all the skills you have demonstrated." This was more than a test of intelligence. It was a test of adaptability, courage, and leadership. The rogue faction had caused chaos in multiple sectors, and failure could lead to destruction on a scale beyond human imagination. Lyra squeezed his hand, a silent gesture of support. "You can do this," she said. "Remember everything you've learned. Trust yourself." He noticed patterns in the rogue faction's movements, small inconsistencies in timing, repeated tactical errors, and overlooked vulnerabilities. Where aliens might rely solely on analysis and predictability, Ethan saw opportunity. Humans had an advantage in intuition, creativity, and risk-taking. He began formulating a plan. The Empress and her council observed silently as Ethan presented his strategy. He proposed a combination of direct action, diversionary tactics, and subtle manipulation of communications. By exploiting the rogue faction's predictable assumptions and responding with unanticipated maneuvers, he could turn their strengths into weaknesses without unnecessary loss of life. "Your plan relies on unconventional methods," Kelera observed, her tone thoughtful. "It challenges our usual approach, yet it demonstrates creativity and understanding of human behavior. Are you certain it will succeed?" "It may not be traditional, but humans often succeed by thinking differently, by adapting in ways others do not expect." As they moved into position, Ethan's mind raced with possibilities, contingencies, and strategies. Every detail mattered. The rogue faction's forces appeared first on the perimeter, sleek and menacing. They assumed traditional tactics, predictable maneuvers, and rigid formations. Ethan's team responded in unexpected ways, splitting and regrouping, using the terrain and technology to create confusion. Small human innovations, improvisations, and quick adaptations allowed them to outmaneuver the more advanced but predictable alien forces. During the operation, Ethan encountered a critical obstacle. A rogue command ship had anticipated part of the plan and cut off a key communication channel. Time was running out, and the situation demanded instant problem-solving. Drawing on his human ingenuity, Ethan devised a rapid alternative. He used a combination of visual signals, timing, and decoy movements to redirect the enemy forces while keeping his team coordinated. The maneuver succeeded. The rogue fleet faltered, confusion spreading through their ranks. The strike team seized the opportunity, neutralizing the threat and regaining control of the system. Ethan's improvisation, quick thinking, and courage had turned a potentially disastrous situation into a decisive victory. When the operation concluded, the palace received word of success. The Empress's empire was safe, the rogue faction defeated without unnecessary destruction, and the sectors restored to stability. Kelera's council applauded the human contribution, their admiration tempered by surprise at the unconventional strategy. Ethan returned to the palace, exhaustion heavy on his shoulders but pride warming his chest. Lyra was there, her eyes shining with relief and pride. "You did it," she said softly. "You've proven more than skill. You've shown courage, creativity, and humanity. You have acted with judgment, with heart, and with ingenuity that even we find impressive. You have done more than survive. You have thrived, and in doing so, you have elevated your species in our eyes. You are worthy of trust, respect, and acknowledgement. You have earned it. Let it be known that humanity's potential is now recognized in this palace. Let this be a new beginning, not only for you, but for the relationship between our species." More than that, he had proven that courage, ingenuity, and empathy were not bound by species. They were qualities that could shine even in the most extraordinary circumstances. Later, Ethan and Lyra walked together through the palace gardens, the floating plants casting soft reflections on the liquid crystal pools. The air was filled with the quiet hum of energy, and for the first time it felt entirely welcoming. They were no longer merely participants in tests or subjects of observation. They were recognized, respected, and valued. "You've changed everything," Lyra said softly. "Not just for us, but for all humans. Mother sees what we can offer, our intelligence, our courage, and our creativity. She understands that we are not weak or fragile. We are capable." Ethan looked at Lyra, feeling a deep sense of accomplishment and purpose. The journey had been long, filled with uncertainty, challenges, and danger, yet they had prevailed. Humanity had earned its place, not through force or deception, but through ingenuity, courage, and morality. Kilara watched them from a distance, her presence both commanding and approving. She had tested, scrutinized, and observed, but she had also seen truth. Humans could rise to extraordinary challenges, think creatively, and act with moral clarity. She had recognized a force that could not be ignored, a species capable of shaping outcomes in unexpected ways. Ethan and Lyra stood together, hand in hand, a symbol of unity, courage, and trust. The trials had tested them, but they had emerged stronger, wiser, and more confident in their abilities. Humanity had been proven, not by mere survival, but by thriving under extraordinary circumstances. As the twin moons of Zithra rose higher in the sky, casting soft light across the palace, Ethan reflected on the journey. The Empress's tests, the dangers, the scrutiny, they had all been challenges to push him beyond limits to reveal his true character. And in doing so, he had proven that humans were capable of brilliance, courage, and empathy, even among beings far older and wiser. Lyra leaned against him, her head resting on his shoulder. "We did it," she whispered. "No," Ethan said, his voice quiet but certain. "Humanity did it." It meant ingenuity, resilience, and the courage to rise in the face of the extraordinary. And on Zithra, under the gaze of an alien empress, humanity had finally shone. "The alien empress summoned me to her palace. She discovered I'm her daughter's lover.